Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we get to sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players and related music industry experts. If you love playing guitar, stick around. You're in the right place. Hey, this is Craig Garber. You know me as host of the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, but when I'm not interviewing world-class guitar players, I'm busy helping clients with their marketing. In fact, since March of 2000, I've helped over 300 clients in 108 different industries all over the world sell everything from $20 books to $5,000 seminar seats and everything in between. I even authored a book about my experience called How to Make Maximum Money with Minimum Customers. Now, if you own or operate a business, ask yourself the following marketing-related questions and be honest with your answers. Are you generating fresh new qualified leads on a daily basis? Is your website generating enough sales? And if not, do you know why? Is your advertising effective? Is it predictably and reliably making you several multiples of what you're spending on it? And lastly, are you consistently communicating with your email list? Or do you have an email list of prospects and customers, but you have no idea what to say to them, how often to say it, or how to make money with this list? If you need solutions for these marketing problems, then you need to book a one-on-one marketing strategy session with me. After this strategy session, you'll know how to speak to and make money with your email list, how to use your website to attract customers and clients who are ready to buy from you now, and how to sell your goods and services for top dollar and at much higher profit margins than your competition. Listen, stop hoping things will get better on their own. Hope is not a very good business strategy. Instead, book a marketing strategy session with me by going to everyonelovesguitar.com/marketing and find out if your business meets the 5 criteria you need to qualify for this service. Again, that's everyonelovesguitar.com/marketing. Thanks for listening. Now let's get on with the show. Let's do this. Hey, everybody. This is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar. And right now, if I could get this out of my mouth without bursting out laughing. While this is fresh on your mind and before anything else comes up, head on over to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get behind-the-scenes information about upcoming guests and early access to a number of really cool programs we're going to be rolling out soon for guitar players. Today, I have an awesome guest that we were just cracking up with. He's a really nice guy. I haven't known Bill Lonero a long time. He's been a pleasure to deal with. Really sweet guy. He's an incredible guitarist, and let me tell you a little bit about him. He's got 4 albums out. First one's called Slather. That was a solo album. Second one is called Relentless. JFL was the third one, and that stands for Just Fucking Listen. And I think all the parents in America who have teenagers wrote in what they wanted to have their favorite expression if they could actually say that, and that's why Bill named the album after that, right? Just Fucking Listen. And his most recent album with his band Lonero is called The Defiant Machine, and we're going to talk about it. It's a great record in many different ways. The playing on it is phenomenal. Production on it is phenomenal. And a little more about Bill. He's got 2 U.S. tours as a main support for Tony McAlpine, and 1 West Coast tour as a main support for Pat Travers. Not too shabby guitar players, huh? The new album is, again, Defiant Machine. It was named one of the 50 most notable albums of the last 50 years by Guitar Player magazine in October 2017 issue. Wow, that's a pretty major honor.
Yeah, it cost me a lot of money to grease their palms.
You did. This is good. Well spent. Well spent. That's a pretty good award. No, I mean, seriously, it's not like, 50 most notable albums of the last, 5 years. That would be even pretty okay, that's pretty. I mean, how many albums come out, right? A year.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, it's an honor beyond an honor,
Yeah, very cool. And Lonero's heading out on tour in March of 2018 with a band called Killer Bee. And they're out of Sweden, and they tour periodically. I think you said, Bill, every 3 to 4 months they come to the States and do a tour.
Actually, like almost every month they come. So that's what we're going to be doing with them when they come out here. They'll be coming out here for a month or for a few days each month, and then we'll hit a different state on every run.
Very cool. Bill was a member of Steelheart for 1 year in 2008. He's recorded and performed with Cliff Williams from AC/DC, Stu Hamm from Steve Vai, bass player from Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Simon Kirke from Bad Company, Gigi Gonaway plays with Mariah Carey, Mike Mangini. I screwed that name up, right? Or did I get it
No,
wrong?
no, that's right.
Okay, Mike Mangini, Extreme, and Steve Vai in Dream Theater. And his biggest influence as a guitarist is a guy named Angus Young, who I think we all know. He also owns a company called Strap Tight Strap Locks, which is endorsed by Joe Satriani, Glenn Hughes, Andy Timmons, and more. And you can find them at straptight.com. He's also the owner of Blink Creative Agency Photography Studio, and you can find them online at blinkcreativeagency.com. And he's a landscape photographer, which you can check him out at photonext.net. And in his free time, he does roofs. Tile roofs. He's a volunteer on the USS Hornet aircraft carrier, which is a recovery ship for the first men to walk on the moon at Apollo 11, and a recovery ship for Apollo 12. And the boat also served in World War II and the Vietnam War. And he's a lover of all things. This is a guy who plays rip-roaring. I don't want to call it metal, because if I say metal, is that okay if I don't? If I say metal, there's like an implication of.
We call it guitarcore, you know. We like to say guitarcore.
You know what? Perfect. It's guitarcore. It's great guitar music. It's like super, super intense. And that being said, he loves Elvis, Dean Martin, and Frank Sinatra. And he wrote a book called Tarasu Island, The Madness.
Tarasosu.
That's right. It's Tarasosu.
Yeah.
Why did I not get? What is that a real place, Tarasosu?
No, so it's a crazy story. I was actually walking around one day, and the name popped in my head, and I thought to myself, this is either going to be a really cool name for an Italian restaurant or a book. And I thought, well, it's cheaper to write a book than it is a freaking Italian restaurant. So me and a friend of mine, I had all these ideas in my head, and then I was telling her about it, and she's like, oh, let's do it. So she ended up writing it with me, and so now I'm starting on another book all by myself. And again, it was a title came to my head, and I was like, I can write a book about that. So I'm working on another book now.
That's awesome. And for anybody who ever sits and says, if I only had more time to blank, honestly, fucking shame on you. This guy's got more irons in the fire than like anybody I know. And I mean, this is just on Facebook, like this is legit stuff. It's not like you have your photography studio is like, an empty warehouse with an old couch off Craigslist. And, it's legit. Yeah. It's like a real proper photography studio. And he's a painter. It's like Monet almost.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but I had fun doing my first one. That's for sure. I'll try more later.
I thought it was pretty cool for a first one. It was like the Eiffel Tower, wasn't it?
Yeah, Eiffel Tower. Yeah, you're quick, man, because I just posted that on Facebook today, right before I talked to you.
Yeah, I know. Well, I was in the restroom.
Yeah. You're cracking me.
Anyway, thank you for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate your time. Honestly, I mean that because I know how busy you are. Hey, you mentioned
pleasure.
Angus Young as a primary influence on your playing, and I was curious, in what ways specifically has he influenced you? Because I wouldn't have thought that after listening to the Defiant Machine, nor would I have thought the Elvis, Dean Martin, and Frank Sinatra stuff. But how's Angus influenced you?
Well, growing up, when I was a kid, I was like, Kiss was like, oh, Kiss, look at Kiss, And then when I realized that, technically they're not that great. And, a lot of the times they really didn't even play on their albums. I got introduced to AC/DC, and I was like, oh, here's a real band. They all actually play the stuff. And Angus Young, it was his attitude, really. It was his stage performance. And the fact that they all went on stage in jeans and T-shirt, except for Angus, of course. But there was no really pretentiousness about them. They didn't need, for the first, 25, 30 years, 35 years, it was just them on stage with their amps. There were no, explosions and all this stuff. They didn't really do explosions until, the Those About to Rock album with the cannons that would come on stage. And so it was just a real band. And I was always drawn to that kind of a band. When I was a kid, there was all the glam bands out there and stuff. But when everybody was listening to that stuff, to the Bon Jovis and the Motley Crues and Cinderellas, I was listening to Metallica and Megadeth and Exodus and Testament and Death Angel. And, that was what I loved, because it was just, guys and their instruments. There were no, crazy lights going on and explosions and spandex and all that stuff and hairspray. And so I gravitated to that. So for me, for Angus, it was really his attitude and his playing. It wasn't perfect. He made mistakes, and that was okay, because at the end of the day, they made music that everybody loved and everybody listened to. And to this day, Back in Black is, the number 2 selling album in history, only, next to Michael Jackson's Thriller. And that says something for an album that's just these guys going in there and just playing rock and roll, and stripped down rock and roll, not glossed up, perfect production rock.
No, there's not a lot of post-production work on their stuff for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they went in and they just did it, and that should be an inspiration. And I still think that, the Back in Black album is one of the heaviest albums of all time,
Back in Black has outsold Dark Side of the Moon?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I thought Dark Side of the Moon was number 2.
Well, Dark Side of the Moon stayed on the Billboard charts longer than any other album in history, but it didn't outsell Back in Black.
Interesting. I learned something today. Thank you. I didn't know that. Very cool. Yeah, so one thing Bill and I talked a little bit before. One thing I'm getting a sense about you is like the integrity of what is behind something is extremely important to you, and the sincerity and the purity of it is
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good. That's an admirable trait. I like people like that.
And I think that's why I really love Sinatra and Elvis and Dean Martin, is because it was a different era back then, right? It was, your word meant something, and we don't have a lot of that today. And I just admire what those guys stood for. If they said something, they stood behind it. They weren't wishy-washy depending on who was listening. If they said they were going to do something, they did it. And I wish more people were like that.
Let me ask you a question about that, because it's something that is a topic that interests me, and because I always try to be a student of human nature, and I have always considered myself to be the kind of person that, like, I'm not passive aggressive. If I tell you yes, it's yes. It's the best contract you will have. If I tell you no, it's freaking no. It's not going to happen. Why do you think that? And I want to say this right, because it's not to build myself up at all. But why do you think that a lot of people struggle with that? I guess, or why do you think that that's a scarcity? I think a lot of people are just insecure nowadays. They don't have the backbone that they used to do. I mean, you look at in World War II, right? Kids were 18, 19 years old going into battle, becoming heroes. Now they wear safety pins and they need safe spaces at work. They need massages when they're sitting down at their desk because they've been there for 2 hours, and God forbid they get a cramp in their neck. It's just a pathetic, way of life now. I mean, really, really it is. I mean, it drives me up the wall. I mean, I went into this place, this company called, I won't even say the name of the company. And they had massage stations, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, you've got to be kidding me here. You guys get massages. And the first thing I thought of was, you had, these people who were getting the massages, their grandfathers were 18 years old, storming the beaches of Normandy and getting shot at and bombed at, and their best friend lost a leg, and you need a massage because you had to type out some report for 20 minutes. It just drives me up the wall, No, I've experienced that on the parenting side. I have 3 kids, and I was the only one that actually did not give their kids a car. Not one of them. I told them this, and I told them, but start saving money now, and we'll match dollar for dollar whatever you save till you're 16, because I wanted to give them an incentive. Yeah, and then that's it. Whatever you can get when you're there, I said I will give you $1,000 on top of that as a gift for turning 16 if you've got your shit together. And that was it. And they all hated. Well, my daughter didn't, because she knew the deal. She was the youngest. She knew from the other two that you can hate me, but it's not going to really matter. Sure. But, and it was, and, years later they came back and said, I really appreciate you did that because I took care of it. But I see this on the parenting end, and I don't understand it. It's all about making things easy, but I don't know that life is, the coping skills they're getting from that are.
That's right. And everybody gets participation awards now. God forbid you leave anybody out and they come in 4th place and they don't get anything, right? So you got to give them something to make them, feel special. But what the fuck? Yeah, it's just, Everybody's, Instagram, everybody wants to take selfies of themselves and post it and get all the likes. And I thought about it the other night. I thought, it's the IG generation. It's the instant gratification generation. Yeah. That's what it should be called, because everybody wants that instant gratification right now. Everybody's used to Amazon delivering same day, and nobody can wait anymore. So it's like, and everybody thinks it's me, and I should get respect, even though I didn't do anything to earn that respect. You should still give me the respect. And I'm like, what am I respecting you for? You didn't do anything. You haven't accomplished anything. You don't contribute to society. So what am I respecting you for?
No, I agree. It's a lot of entitlement. And I don't understand it, to be honest with you. I feel very old at times because I just don't get it.
Well, I don't feel old. I feel smart. And
I don't know though. Like the inmates are running the asylum, so I wonder sometimes. Am I as smart as I think, or maybe I?
Yeah, well, you're definitely smarter than the majority of them. I'll tell you that. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, it really is, and it's just it blows me away. It really does.
All right, man. That marks the end of the political segment of this episode. Hey, let me ask you a question. You've worked with some pretty iconic artists, and I was curious if you could share some information for each of the following people, maybe how you got the gig, if you have like a cool or funny story or discussion of something, a part of your experience, and anything you might have learned about the experience, about either playing, about business, performing, life in general, whatever, any kind of lessons. Let's start with Cliff Williams, since we're talking about Angus.
So Cliff Williams and Simon Kirke, they go together on this one. I was asked to be like the guitar instructor for the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp in Hollywood, 2008. And Cliff Williams was going to be like the head rock star guy that was going to come in. And so I was like, yeah, hell yeah, because it's Cliff Williams. That's like my hero. He's my favorite band of all time. And Simon Kirke was the drummer. So they put me in. So I was going to help lead the band with Simon Kirke. So we were going to be the kind of like the I guess not instructor, kind of instructor, of that group. And so, I played with Simon for like 7 days. We recorded a few songs for the thing. And then Cliff Williams came and I was leaving for the night. And it was actually quite funny. I was leaving for the night. I was done. We were jamming, me and Kirke and Nick Mason from Pink Floyd, I think was there.
You're
was there.
Kidding me.
Yeah. He was playing drums. So it was like dual drums going on. And, we were just jamming on some stuff. And then as I was leaving, I turned the corner and literally bumped into Cliff Williams, and he was much shorter than I thought he was going to be. But I was like, I was tongue tied. It was like I never get tongue tied meeting any rock star because they're all just people.
Right.
But this was different, and I was like, oh shit. And he's like, and so I introduced myself. He says, oh, are we going to jam, mate? And I was like, and that's a horrible accent, but I just did. But I said, at first I didn't want to because I was intimidated. He goes, oh, come on. So we went up and we jammed on Stevie Ray Vaughan's Pride and Joy, Jeff Beck's Going Down, and Jimi Hendrix Voodoo Child. And it was a lot of fun, man. It was so much fun. And then what happened was at the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, which is a really, really cool event, each band has to perform to win. And so they have all these judges. Gene Simmons was the judge, Rudy Sarzo, Bruce Kulick, all these guys. And
Rudy Sarzo, did you get to meet him? Because I've seen him in he's a pretty intense guy, man.
He is, but he's a very, very cool guy, man. He looks fantastic
in a good way.
For his age.
Yeah, intense in a good way. Yeah, I saw him in a he was in the Sidemen documentary.
Yes.
And I was really
absolutely
impressed by him. I said, man, he's a deep thinker. I got to get that guy on this show. He seemed like, he did look great. I don't know what the fuck he's on. I got to get some.
Right. Because he's the real deal, man. He's the real deal.
Yeah, he's.
I'm sorry. No, that's all right. So we played that night, and Cliff got up and we did TNT together, and I forgot
cool.
So he's standing next to me. We're on stage together, and it's one of my favorite photos. And where he bumps me, and he says, "Let's do backup." And I was like, "Okay." And so we get up, and I forgot the backup that I was supposed to sing, and all I had to say was "Oi." I had 2 letters to say, and I forgot the lyrics. And he looks at me and smiles, and he says, "Oi," and I was like, "Oh, I got it." So we did backup, And I got this really cool photo of him and I together at the microphone, and I have it at my studio, and it's framed. And then after that, we went back to the hotel, and we drank, and it was fantastic because he was just a character, man. And it was great. It was so much fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and Simon was fantastic. Spent a week with him, jamming and hearing stories, and he was fantastic.
I can't believe you got to play with Nick Mason, Simon Kirke, and Cliff Williams in one bill. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
How did you get the gig? How did they pick you to do the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp?
So what happened was I had a friend of mine who works for Apple, and he's pretty high up at Apple, and the owner of the fantasy camp came to him and said, hey, we need somebody to design the website. Do you know anybody? He says, oh yeah, I know somebody. So he called me up and says, dude, do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. So I called up the owner of the fantasy camp, David Fishoff, and we talked, and I said, okay, yeah, I can design the website. So we agreed on a price. We did it. And then he said, well, he says, you play guitar, right? And I said, yeah. And he goes, we need a guitar instructor. He said, do you want to do it? And I said, yeah. I said, man, that would be great. So, I've been very fortunate that a lot of really cool opportunities have come my way, but it's not luck. And I don't believe in luck. And I tell people that. It's like the luck doesn't exist. It's a matter of putting yourself in a place where you're going to get opportunities and not saying no because you think that, I can't do this because of time or whatever. The time thing is an excuse that people use as a crutch, and so many people use it. Oh, I can't do this because, I'll only get a few hours of sleep. Well, tough shit. You know what? You only get a few hours of sleep. If you really want to do it, you're going to do it. Yeah, you're not going to make any excuse that, I can't do this because I got to wash my hair.
You can sleep tomorrow.
Go shopping. Absolutely, man. Bon Jovi has a great line. I'll sleep when I'm dead. And it's true. Look where it's gotten him.
Right.
So people just have to get that out of their mindset, man. That you can. There's 24 hours in a day. You sleep 8. I get 8 hours of sleep every night. And I go to bed like around 1 o'clock. I'll wake up around 9, and I still got 16 hours left to do what I need to do. If you can't do what you have to do at 16 hours, then you're doing something wrong, and you need to reevaluate what you're doing and what you're not doing.
I do think, though, as far as luck goes, I think there's a lot to be said about, and this is very California sounding from an East Coast guy, I think there's a lot to be said about being where you're supposed to be. Oh,
yeah. But again, that's about putting yourself in that opportunity, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, when my friend came to me and said, do you want to do the website? I just said, you know what? No, because that's going to be a huge website to do. I don't know if I'm going to have the time for that, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, man, what could come of this, right? Yeah. So I always think everything happens for a reason.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what it is. If it's good, if it's bad, if it's indifferent, it happens for a reason. You're put where you are at that specific moment, and you need to take that chance and take that opportunity and grasp it and grab it and just go for it. If you fail at it, big deal, but at least you gave it a shot. If you don't try, well, then, you failed before you even started.
Yes, I do agree with you there. But I know, like, just me, there's certain, I've got a really good work ethic, and there's certain things I've done which just haven't worked, and other things I've done which have just been home runs. And I sit back and look, and I've consulted with literally like 300 clients in the last 20 years, and I see them, and sometimes it's just like, well, it seems like the universe supported you, and because you were supposed to be there. And other times I see things like, well, you killed it, and it didn't go anywhere, and there's nothing you could have done. So that's
right. And that does happen. Absolutely. I mean, we put out 4 albums, and it's like some albums sell better than the others. Does that mean that the album A is worse than album B? No, it's just the opportunities weren't there. We didn't promote it right, maybe, and at the end of the day, I've got to take the blame or the praise for everything that happens, right? Yeah. When something goes bad for the band, then, which actually doesn't happen that often, but when something does go, I take the blame for that. But when something good happens, then it's the whole band that is responsible for that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, I totally agree.
And so for me, it's all that praise needs to be shared. The blame, though, I can carry that on my own shoulders. They're big enough for that. I have no problem with that.
No, I know, man. we have a lot of same thoughts about accountability, because I think accountability is a really important thing.
Absolutely.
In like, I know a few, like back in like '09, I had a bunch of really bad shit happen, and like when the dust settled, you know, the two things I always try to do in like a shitty situation or crisis or whatever, just fucking when life gives you some, you know, lemonade, is I try to figure out what was my role in it. That's the first thing I do, because if you do that, at least for me, and I could own some of it, well, now I'm not a victim. You there, Bill?
You there?
Yeah,
you there?
Man, lost you. Did you get a call coming in or something?
Lost you for no. It switched over from Wi-Fi over to my network, and all of a sudden it just froze it. But I'm back.
Oh, good. Yeah, like if you take responsibility in something, you're not a victim.
That's right.
And I hate feeling like a victim. And sometimes just shitty things happen. But, you know, if I could take a hold of something, then I'm not a victim. It's like, okay, I made a bad decision here. Okay, shame on me. Now I need to make sure I don't do that again. Yeah.
But you know what? I have a theory that a lot of people actually like to be the victim. And the reason being is because it takes the responsibility away from them to succeed.
Yeah.
If you're a victim, right, you can say, well, that wasn't my fault. You know, I didn't get that promotion because I was the victim of sexual harassment, or I was the victim of just harassment in general, or my boss didn't like me, or, you know, I got passed over because I was too young, or I was too old. You know, it's always something. It's not, oh crap, I got passed over because my work ethic sucks.
Right.
You know, I didn't finish my work on time. I was always late, you know, whatever it is. Everybody wants, so if it's not your fault, then you can never say, oh, well, you know, I didn't succeed because of my fault. I didn't succeed because somebody else stopped me. And that's complete bullshit.
Well, you know, and even if it's true, okay, now your job is to figure out how to get the hell out of there.
That's right. Absolutely.
So that you won't have that excuse.
That's right.
You know?
If you're staying in a job where you're being treated like that, then it's your fault still because you're staying there. You're choosing to stay there. And the thing is, you know, a lot of people, they don't go after their dreams. They don't chase their goals because it's always, well, I can do it tomorrow. I've got this. I've got a mortgage. I've got this. I've got family. I've got, car payments, you know, whatever it is, right? But you know what? You've got the ability to do it. You're choosing not to do it, you know? And there are more people out there who choose not to do it than there are who choose to do it, you know?
Yeah, unfortunately. I totally agree.
And here's the thing: when you work for somebody else, right? When you're working at a job and you're CEO and you see him and he drives up in his Bentley and you know he leaves at 10 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning for his golf date, you know you're choosing to make his dreams come true. He's doing everything right. You're the one that's choosing to make his dreams come true.
Yeah.
You know, so you know that's all on you. You know, as an employee and as you know, if that's what you want to live with for the rest of your life, then by all means go for it. You know, we need people like that, right? I mean, because if we didn't, we wouldn't have people at companies. But you know, if you're sick of that kind of being treated like that and that lifestyle, then you've got to do something about it.
Yeah, I saw a quote recently, something like that. It said, "Now's a really good time to start working on the next 10." To start fixing the next 10 years worth of problems that you're going to have, or something like that. Like,
right. Yeah.
Like, just like freaking get on it today. You know?
That's right. That's right. I have a quote that I really that I came up with that I really like, and it's success can only be achieved when effort exceeds desire. And what it means basically is you cannot be successful if all you're going to do is think about how to be successful. You have to actually put the effort in to make it happen. You know,
like
you have to, you know, and if you don't put that effort in, if you don't put at least, you know, 75% effort into your 25% desire, it's not going to happen. You can't have 75% desire and 25% effort.
I mean, Think and Grow Rich is not true?
Yeah, right. I mean, well, no. It is for the guy who wrote the book.
Yeah.
You know, it's not for all the fools out there who bought that book. You know, you can't just think and you know. So for me, like, you know, you brought up the photo studio. You know, I've never owned a photo studio. You know, I'm not a portrait photographer, but the opportunity came to do this, and I'm not going to be like, well, I've never done this before. This could be a failure. No, I'm going to be like, okay, let me jump into this. See what I can get out of this. Who knows what's going to come of this, you know?
Right.
I've got the building. I've got the means to make the 24 by 20 foot psych wall. We built a loft, all this stuff. It's like, if I was going to shy away from it, I'd be like, no, that's too much work to do. We've been at it for 5 months working on this place. Every day we go there, we work on it. There's time for everything. There's time. I didn't hire a construction crew to come out and do this. Me and 2 other friends, we built the place, So it's a matter of putting that effort in and knowing you want to make something happen.
Bill, you need to make a motivational tape, man. Motivational. Seriously.
Oh, if I do, I'll call it, Think and Grow Rich, and then I'll make $1 million.
No, Think and Grow Rich Part 2.
The Part 2. There you go. Then you got to pay royalties to that guy.
Sorry, man. Talk about Stu Hamm. How'd you get the gig? And what was your experience like?
So that was actually really cool. So I was working on my first album, Slather, and I had written all these songs, and I needed to basically. So let me proceed this real quick. I was working at a company called JDS Uniphase. I was a tech writer, and I was making a lot of money. I was making a lot of money at this company, but I was hating it. I was that guy who was making the other guys rich, even though I was making a ton of money at this place, and I realized I didn't have an album. I didn't have a band. I had no promo photos, nothing. So I realized that I need to quit this job, and I need to quit while I'm ahead, because if I quit when I'm not making any money, then I'll never quit at all. So I made this. I remember I called my girlfriend up and I said, I need to get out of here. She's like, well, just quit. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, just quit. And I was like, okay. So I said, well, before I quit, though, I need promo shots, right? Niels Lozauer was my hero growing up as a kid. I was always looking for his photos and all that stuff in magazines. So I found his website. I called him up. I emailed him. I emailed him. I stepped away from my desk. I came back 5 minutes later, and there's a call from him. And, we hit it off on the phone. And Niels shot everybody. I mean, he was Van Halen's photographer, Motley Crue. I mean, you go to zloz.com, ZLOZ.com, and you'll be astounded by the amount of photographs this guy's taken.
Dude, I remember him incredible. When I was a kid in, Cream magazine.
There you go. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, he's been shooting since 1967.
Yep.
And I love the guy to pieces. I mean, he is definitely one of my best friends. And so we hit it off really well. And and so what happened was that was basically the nucleus of starting this album, Slather. So I'd written all these songs, and the guy from Apple, Frank, he says, well, I know a bass player, Dave Ellefson from Megadeth. And I said, well, you think we can get Dave Ellefson? And he goes, yeah. He goes, let's try. So Dave at the time was my rep at Peavey, because he had left Megadeth and he went over to Peavey. So I asked him, and he said, yeah, man, I'll play on it. So we figured out when, and then it turned out that his son's birthday party was that weekend that I was going to go to the studio to do it. So couldn't do it. So Frank says, well, what about Stu Hamm? And I go, well, I don't know Stu. He goes, I know Stu. I'll give him a call. So he called up Stu or emailed him, and Stu called me back. And he says, well, send me some music. So I emailed him some music. He says, yeah, man, I'll play on it. So he came down to Belmont where we recorded at, and we recorded the album. And Gigi Gonaway was the drummer on that album. And so that brings me to Gigi. And Gigi, I love that guy to pieces. I mean, he's not only is just an amazing drummer, but he is one of the most joyful people to be around. I mean, always happy, always has a smile, and he lightens every room he goes to. He just brightens that room up. I mean, because his energy is so contagious.
That's awesome.
I met him. The way I met him was I went backstage to Eric Martin's show. Eric Martin, the singer for Mr. Big, and Gigi was playing drums for Eric at the time. And we were hanging out backstage, and Gigi says, what do you do? And I said, I play guitar. I'm working on my first album. And he literally looks at me, pokes me on the chest, and says, I'll play on it. And I said, come on, man. He goes, no, I'll play on it. You let me know when you're available, when you're ready to go in the studio, and I'll play on it. And I said, okay, it's going to be about 6 months. I said, you'll probably forget about me by then. He goes, just email me or call me. So 7 months later, I sent him a message. I said, hey, Gigi, this is Bill, blah, blah, blah. I said, we're ready to go in the studio. He says, okay, tell me when to be there, and I'll be there. And he came down, and he played on the album.
That's freaking awesome.
Absolutely. So it was him and Stu Hamm, and it was just, and him and Stu ended up doing other stuff later on together, which is great because I felt like, wow,
bad rhythm section.
No, not at all, man. Not
on your first album.
On my first album, it was great. And then I had Mike Mangini on drums on a couple of songs, and we did 2 songs, but only one ended up on the album. And I met Mike because at the time I was a clinic coordinator for a company called Guitar Showcase in San Jose. It's a guitar store. So it's just still around. And what happened is I had become friends with Gary Hoey. And Gary,
what a good guitar player that guy is.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And Gary was like, hey man, does the guitar store you work at, do they do clinics? And I said, no, we haven't really done any. He goes, oh, okay. And I said, let me see if I can figure out, maybe we can. So I ended up getting Gary in there, and they said, well, you know what, if you want to do more clinics? And I said, hell yeah, man, I'll do more clinics. So I ended up getting Gigi in there, and I ended up getting Mike Mangini in there, and because he was available for clinics. So I was talking to Mike on the phone, the first time I ever talked to him on the phone, and he says, so you're the clinic coordinator for them? And I said, yeah. And he goes, okay, do you play? And I said, yeah, I play guitar. I said, I'm working on my first album. And I, no shit, he goes, I'll play on it. Just like that. And I was like, dude, I said, you play with Steve Vai and Extreme? He goes, yeah, but you know what? If you can schedule it when I'm in town, he goes, I'll stay an extra day. He goes, let's do it. And I was like, wow, oh man, that would be amazing. So I scheduled him an extra day to stay there. And the next day, early in the morning, we went to that same studio and we recorded a couple of songs. And it was a lot of fun, and I kept in touch with Mike, and I just saw him play with Dream Theater, and it was great. And I was up in Long Island, and I spent 5 days with them shooting the John Petrucci guitar camp up there, and it was really cool. So yeah, a lot of really good opportunities that come my way, and I could have said no to any of them, but I didn't.
That's awesome.
I'm the yes man. Like Jim Carrey in that movie.
Well, I think you got to say yes to opportunities, man.
Yes, absolutely. If you don't, you never know, right?
And music especially is such a really small world.
Yes.
And almost always, and I'm an outsider, I'm not a musician, but in my limited interaction with the 250 musicians I've spoken to,
yeah,
I mean, almost always comes out of literally every conversation I have. It's crazy.
And that's the thing, right? I mean, you're going to get opportunities. You're going to get, they may not be all great opportunities, but they're going to be opportunities.
Right.
And you just have to embrace them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just really unique. Just to understand, you released one solo LP as Bill Lonero, and then you formed a band, Lonero?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, what happened was I had put out the album and then realized that I wanted to put a band together to play behind this album. And what happened was basically I didn't want to call the band Lonero because it's just too focused on one person. So I was like, okay, if we got to call the band something. But at the time, my drummer was like, nah, dude, let's just call it Lonero. And I was like, okay. I said, but we're going to raise the N in Lonero so my name, when I spell it, is L-O lowercase N-E-R-O, but the band name is with a capital N. Oh, okay. That's how the original spelling of the name is back in, the day, was a capital N. But my dad didn't want to be associated with Nero the Emperor, so he had it lowered. And apparently we are related to Nero the Emperor. And that is what apparently Lonero means, is of Nero. So yeah, so how true that is, I don't know. It would be cool if it is true, but because it would be cool to be, related to an emperor. But if not, that's all right too. But yeah, so for the band, I raised the N, and so I formed the band with some musicians I knew and friends, and it worked out well. And our very first show we ever played was opening for Michael Schenker. And that was the first time I ever fronted a band instrumentally, and I was terrified. I'll tell you that. I was
opening
scared.
for Michael Schenker. I would imagine.
Well, I wasn't terrified opening for him. I was terrified fronting the band for the first time. I'd never talked to an audience before. I had never, stood dead center on the stage. And I remember my bass player at the time, Jack, he pushed me out to the center. He's like, dude, you got to get out there. And I was like, shit, I don't want to, but it was cool. And I learned a lot from that, and how to talk to an audience, and how to, realize that the audience is there to see you. They're not there to make fun of you. They're not there to berate you and, throw shit at you like, the movie Roadhouse or Blues Brothers or something like that. They're there to enjoy a night of music, you know, and they paid money to come in, and you have to entertain them.
So you had all that, you know, crazy shit going through your head about all the potential things that could happen, and you learn. That's great. That's a really good story.
That's right. And we've opened for Shanker 3 times now, and you know, it's always been good.
That's really cool, man. What? That's a good story. Let's talk about your new album. Mm-hmm. It's called The Defiant Machine, and there's some really good guitar work in there. I was curious.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If there's a backstory there, like what prompted you to make it, and then how did it get named as one of the 50 most notable albums of the last 50 years by guitar players?
So what happened was I had written about 24 songs for the new album, whatever that was going to be. I was actually going to name the album Best Album of the Year. And the reason I was going to name it that was because, I was going to name it that because I wanted it, even if critics didn't like it, they would have to refer to it as Best Album of the Year.
That is absolutely hilarious.
Right? So it was going to be called that. And then what happened was I had written this song called Defiant. And it completely changed the direction of the album because I had written the keyboards for it. I had laid out the drums, and I'd really, whereas before on the other albums when I demoed the songs, I had just taken formatted drum beats and kind of stuck them together. Whereas with Defiant, what I did was I had basically note by note programmed each drum beat in there, MIDI, and then I did the same for the keyboards. And I had never written keyboards before, and I was like, man, I really like the direction that this song is going. This is what I want the whole album to sound like. So I basically threw away all 24 of those songs and started from scratch. So Defiant was the first song, and then the next song I wrote was called The Machine. Mm-hmm. And it was, you know, a really aggressive, you know, song, drop C, you know, all this stuff. And I thought, man, the Defiant Machine, that's a great album. What is a Defiant Machine? And I started thinking, you know, robots gone crazy and all this stuff. And I thought, well, no, the Defiant Machine, the ultimate Defiant Machine is war. Because it doesn't matter how many, you know, bumper stickers that say love, not war, you know, or how many protests you get in San Francisco and all this crazy shit. There's going to be war. There's been conflict from the beginning of man. There'll be conflict to the end of man, and it'll be that conflict that'll end man. And, you know, I started thinking, well, I want this album to be war-based, about how war is, you know, such a defiant machine. So all the song titles started coming up, and then all the, you know, the sound speeches started coming in, and you know, we should looking for that kind of stuff. And it really just ended up becoming, you know, this thematic album about war. And so that's kind of how, you know, Guitar Player Magazine, you know, having an instrumental theme album, which is really rare, actually. And I just got a call one day from the editor, and he said, hey, you know, just want to let you know that, you know, your new album is going to be named one of the top most noteworthy 50 most noteworthy albums the last 50 years by us. And I was like, holy shit, man, you got to be kidding me. You know, so that was really special. You know, I'll never forget that phone call.
So thanks for sharing that story. That was pretty interesting how you put that together. So there was no, like, the whole theme, because I had a question about the theme of war. There was nothing in particular. It just kind of gelled together. It wasn't like, you know, you had a personal story, like, you know, family lost in the war or something like that.
No. It was just, I mean, you know, I wanted to pay, you know, kind of tribute. Well, on the inside liner notes of all the photos on the cover, the photo on the cover, all the photos on the inside were all done on the USS Hornet aircraft carrier. And, you know, that was one of the greatest ships of any war. That ship really helped turn the tide in the Midway and in the Battle of Midway, and just in the Japanese conflict altogether. And so I wanted to pay tribute to that ship. For one, by doing all the photos on there. And, you know, the Hornet has always been just immensely what's the word I'm looking for? Generous to me and to the band. And we shot a video on there for our song Burning of Ideals. And we spent 3 days on there, 8 hours a day. Wow. And they let us have the full run of the ship. And they didn't charge me a dime, you know. And it was fantastic. We didn't end up using the video because we fired 2 of the guys in the band before the video got out. And you know, everything happens for a reason.
Sure.
So I mean, you know, for me, I wanted something that was aggressive. I wanted an instrumental album that was angry. because most instrumental music is soft and it's happy. And I didn't want that. I wanted something angry and had attitude, and it was in your face and more akin to the early days of Metallica than some jazz fusion album that's out there that you can't tell one from the other, and then that's all great. Technically, that's all fantastic. But when you put them side by side, you can't tell one jazz fusion guy or one instrumental guy from another nowadays. They're all using the same phrasing, the same scales, the same, melodies, the same chord progressions. And, I don't listen to it. I want to hear angry. But I don't want to hear, I'm going to kill your mother. I just want to hear, cool riffs that make me think.
Sure.
that take me somewhere. And that's what we try to do with this album is we try to, take the listener on a journey from World War I all the way up to Desert Storm. And we did that with song titles. We did that with sound effects and speeches, historic speeches. And I wanted to educate people at the same time. Because, a lot of music, you listen to it, it just dumbs you down. It's there in the background. It's there. It's elevator music, it's Red Lobster music, like I like to call a lot of it. It's just there in the background. You don't even listen to it. And music should be enjoyed. It should be, something that you really listen to, because not many people really listen to music,
Yeah, I always, in fact, when I always try. I used to listen to music 24/7, and now if I'm listening to new stuff, I don't. I have to listen to new stuff when I'm not doing anything else because I want to process it sort of.
Yeah, exactly.
So have you been able to leverage? Has this getting that accolade of one of the 50 most notable albums of the last 50 years in guitar? Has that you been able to leverage that at all? Has there been any?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got a podcast with you. Shit, man. So what more do I need?
Yes, you've arrived.
I'm on the phone with you right now. I mean, come on. It's so.
Oh my
but
God.
yeah,
you do have a good sense of humor.
You have to in this business, man. If you don't, you'll take everything too serious.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's but yeah, no. I mean, it's been good. I mean, it's people. They take us a little more seriously, it seems like, and since then, I think I've done 5 podcast interviews since then, and I never did any before that.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And, I love doing interviews because, you meet so many cool people and you meet new fans. And to me, that's what it's all about. I mean, a band without fans, you're just playing in your garage. You have to have fans. You got to respect them and you got to appreciate them, so. Doing stuff like this to me is it's not, I don't want to say it's part of the job because I enjoy it. I love doing this stuff.
Right.
I mean, I've talked to people, I hate doing interviews. Well, then get out of
the wrong business.
Yeah, you're in the wrong business, buddy. It's like if you hate doing interviews, it's just like, I don't care. I'll do 5. I've done 5 in a day, and I love it. I mean, I absolutely love it.
That's a lot of interviews in one day.
It is. I mean, it was
shit.
it was like 2 podcasts and then 3 email interviews.
Like this,
it was,
like with the kind, like
yeah.
Wow,
yeah,
that's a lot of work, man. Whoa, that's a lot of work.
Not for me. I'm just talking. It's just I'm just telling stories and talking. So for me, it's more work for you. You got to do the editing and all that stuff. So
it's interesting. I have to tell you, and I'll just tell the listeners a story. I met Bill. I was trying to get a hold of somebody else, and I happened to meet Bill. He was kind of like the conduit, and I knew nothing about his. I knew nothing about his album, but he was so nice and just so incredibly helpful that I said, "Man, let me check this guy. What's this guy about?" And then I saw he's a musician. He's a professional guitar player. I listened to some of the stuff. I said, "Man, the guy can play." I knew nothing about like this particular album or that, it was one of the, I just thought you were like so nice. I'm like, man, I'd love to get this guy on the show because he was just so nice. It's kind of weird how, I'm just like, like,
well, thank you. And like I said, though, right. Everything happens for a reason. Right. Yeah. And, I mean, you're where you're supposed to be right where you are.
Yeah, man. I agree with you. Let's talk about some of the specifics. I really dug a few of the songs on there and I had some questions for you. The first thing I thought about when I was listening to that album is execution, and here's what I mean by that. I'm a blues guy. I like blues. Like Gary Hoey's. I like his music, right? But the level of precision that is required to play the music on the Defiant Machine. It's not like a blues album, man. The execution on that is the precision of everybody working together in, one like smooth working plan. I thought it was phenomenal, and I was curious.
Thank you.
Is there a prep for that, or is that like I don't even know the right question to ask you.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to figure out is how does that come together over 11 songs, 57 minutes, and every song is like that. You're not, with one exception where you did some kind of like freer soloing, it was pretty precise.
Yeah, I mean, everybody in the band. I mean, I love everybody in the band. I got James Manalili on guitar. He plays, leads, rhythm. Will Sharman on drums and Mike McKaig on bass. Mike's been with me since 2004, and well,
you can tell because you guys were very, you could tell this was not your first rodeo.
Yeah, and thank you. I mean, we all, like you said, we all get along really well, and we respect each other as musicians. We're not trying to outdo each other, maybe in a playful way, a rehearsal or something like that. Yeah. But when it comes down to the album and playing shows, it's about respect of each other and our abilities. And, I mean, for us, I mean, we when we played the album, we recorded it. Like for me, for my, and for James too, his solos on the album, I believe, they were pretty much all improvised, as were mine. The only one I think on the album that wasn't improvised, well, it was when I recorded it, was the Burning of Ideals main solo. That one, I actually have a video of myself playing that for the first time, and I really liked the way it came out. So I ended up keeping it. And that's where the Angus Young influence comes from, is that improvisation and just playing and letting it come out, and not, every measure has to be mapped out ahead of time, and, this has got to be perfect. And, if I make a mistake, I'm okay with that. If there's a note that's open in there, I'm okay with that, because that's what happened at that moment. I'm capturing a moment to last for, all time, at least as long as, we're around. Sure. So I'm not trying to make it sound like this is, absolutely spot on, perfect. It's a machine. I don't want it to be a machine. I want that free flowing, energy that is coming through when you're creating for the first time. And that's what we did. I didn't hear any mistakes, man, to be honest with you. Well, that's good to know.
I'm sure you hear them, because, we are all our own worst critics. But, I mean, I was just blown away by the precision of that whole thing, and the execution was great.
Thank you.
And I just want to, just for the listeners, to describe the album, Bill called it guitarcore. It's like, so if I had to describe, it's got soaring guitar lines, and it's straight ahead. I'm going to say old school metal, and I say old school because each song is melodic, and there's speed playing in there, but I didn't find like speed playing just for speed's sake.
Yes.
I felt the lines everything was deliberate and purposeful, and you could tell there was a ton of work put into the composition beyond, into the composition itself, as opposed to the effort of just, the effort being focused exclusively on playing to the exclusion of composition. Yeah. If that makes sense. So I thought it was really, really cool.
That's good to know.
A couple of questions. What's that? Sorry.
Sure. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Oh, no, I was just saying that's what I wanted to get across to people, that it was, an album of, I don't want to say ideas, but it was an album of, right now, this snapshot in life, this point. I don't know what the next album is going to sound like. We haven't even, really started on it yet. But, when we do, it'll make itself known, and we'll know what it's going to sound like, as it progresses.
Do you feel pressure now for the next one?
No.
I got to be like,
whatsoever.
If I don't get in the top 25 most notable albums, heads are going to roll.
Right. No, I don't actually. And I thought about that the other day. Like, oh man, do we have to top this one? It's like, no, we don't. No. Because it's like this album, The Defiant Machine, is this album right now in this time frame.
Yeah.
The next album, it's going to be its own identity.
Yeah.
You know, every album I try and do something different on. Like, you know, Slather had a Latin song, it had a blues song, it had a Hawaiian song. Oh, I'm sorry, the Hawaiian song was on the next album. It had like a folk acoustic style song, and it had some rock songs. And then the next album, Relentless, that had a Hawaiian slack key song on it, and then it had Amazing Grace on it, and then a bunch of rock songs. And then the next album had a couple of punk rock style instrumental songs that were a tribute to Social Distortion and the Ramones. And then the Defiant Machine was, you know, basically a theme album. So I want every album, as much as I love AC/DC, I could never write the same album over and over and over like that.
Yeah.
You know, it works for them. That is their identity. That's their style. And they do it better than anybody else ever will. That's not my style. I want each album to be like, wow, that's the same band as that last album. That's what I want to happen. I want people to listen to each album as if it's a different book. Not the same book over and over. It's a different book. You don't read the same book 5 times in a row.
Because it is a different book. It's a different chapter in your life. Yeah,
absolutely. It's a different chapter. It's a different book. And it's funny because I hear bands, right? They come out with a new album. Oh, how's this new album? Oh, it's completely different than the last album we did. It sounds exactly the same. You know, you did nothing different on this album that you did on the last album. So don't lie just to sell records and say it's different. It's not any different. You know, it's exactly the same album. You know, so it's
and there's nothing wrong with that. Also, I mean, look at AC/DC. Look at ZZ Top.
That's right. Absolutely, there is nothing wrong with that. But don't go out and say that it's different when it actually isn't. You know, I can honestly say every one of our albums is different from the last album, and I'm proud to say that. You know.
Awesome. Tuesdays for Killing. That's like a battle hymn, and
yes,
you had a lot of cadence and time changes in there, and I was curious if you wrote the song like that, or did those time changes sort of come to life when you started putting together the song amongst the group?
No, it just happened. I mean, just whatever riff came out after the previous riff, that was, you know, what happened. So if it had time changes in it then that's what it had. You know, when I write, I like to just let it flow. So I'll write a riff, and then, you know, I'll record it, and then I'll play it, and then whatever I come out with next, if that sounds good to me, that's what I put down. I don't labor over, oh my God, is this going to sound good here, and how is this going to sound later on? I want it to be as natural as possible when I'm writing, you know, and that goes for them. You know, the melodies and all that, that's the last thing to go on. The solos are the last thing to go on. For me, it's the rhythms are the most important thing, because that's, you know, 75% of the song is the rhythm. And if you don't have a good rhythm, then you've got nothing underneath your melody. And so so when I write, I like to write as if it's a vocal song. I like to write with verses and choruses to kind of capture that vocal melody type thing.
Well, that was my next question. Is writing instrumental songs different from writing songs with lyrics?
I mean, not to me, it's not. I mean, you know, my previous bands, I was always the lyric writer. I wrote all the lyrics, you know, except for Steelheart, but I wrote the lyrics in, you know, the other bands I was in, and I enjoyed doing that. And, you know, the whole instrumental thing happened. It's funny. I just posted a post about this last night. I took a photo of the place where the band started, and it used to be a CD store. And we used to go in there, you know, 10 o'clock. I used to be the manager of the store. And at 10 o'clock, we'd close down, and we'd move all the CD racks out of the way, and we'd set up the drums and the guitar amps, and we'd start playing. And we would do it right in the front window of the building, you know, and people would walk by and they'd watch and they'd listen, and, you know, before going to dinner or whatever. And what happened was we were like, okay, let's write these songs. We'll write some riffs, and then we'll leave spaces where, you know, we'll put the verses in and stuff where the vocals are going to go. And then when we find a vocalist, they can put their lyrics in. And then as time went on, it was like, okay, well, I'll put a melody down where the vocal line should be. And it would be on top of a verse riff or a chorus riff. And it was like, we still couldn't find a vocalist, you know? And so I was like, well, screw it. Let's just keep it like this. This is how we're going to write. We're going to write as if it's a vocal song, and we're going to put the melody on top of it. And I don't see a problem with that. To me, there's nothing wrong with that. That's how a song should be written. You know, a lot of times I hear instrumental songs, and it's just, you know, they'll play 1 or 2 chords over the melody, and they'll shred over the top of it. And as soon as they start playing, it's fast, 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 fast. And it's like, dude, slow down. You're blowing your whole load in the first 10 seconds of the song. You know, what more is there to listen to? You know, you've already freaking orgasmed and you're done, you know? You're like a 16-year-old high school kid on his first date, you know? So it just, to me, I want to draw the listener in as much as possible. And you know, I don't need to play fast at the beginning. I don't even need to play fast at all. The song Defiant, there's nothing fast in that song at all besides the little beginning run. That's it. You know, the guitar solo is pretty tame. But I wanted texture over speed, over arpeggios. I wanted to create a texture for that guitar solo. And that's, you know, I kept it as simple as possible.
Well, you had some really, in that same song, you had some really pretty acoustic guitar in there.
Yeah. Yeah. In Defiant, yeah, that's actually, yeah,
Tuesdays for Killing.
Yeah. And I'll tell you that solo, that clean part in that song, that melody solo was inspired, and you're not going to believe this because nobody believes when I tell them, was inspired by Jimmy Buffett. And
interesting.
And what happened? So there's a song that Jimmy Buffett has called Jamaica Mistake, and it's probably my favorite guitar solo ever is in that song. And it's so lyrical, it's short, and it's absolutely a gorgeous melody in the solo.
Now I have to check
and I
that
thought,
out.
and I thought, you know, in this song, I want a tribute to Jimmy Buffett. And so I had written this clean section, and then I wanted to play something along the lines of that. You know, it has a little arpeggio at the end, but it's got that, you know, that clean vibe to it. And it's, you know, it doesn't sound like Jimmy Buffett, but it's inspired by that guitar solo in that song.
That's interesting. You know, very cool, man.
Yeah, and the title for that song too is another, you know, crazy.
Yeah, you said there was a story behind that. What was it?
Yeah, so the original name of that song was called Perception. It had nothing to do with war, but I just couldn't come up with a better title for it than that. And I was like, well, what can I, you know, if I name it Perception, okay, the perception of war, something, right? But it just didn't fit in. So I had sent all the songs to my friend Michael Burry. And I don't know if you've seen the movie The Big Short or not, with Christian Bale, Brad Pitt, Ryan Gosling, and Steve Carell.
No, I have not.
So in that movie, it's about these hedge fund managers that basically, predicted the whole crash of 2008. Well, Christian Bale portrayed my friend Michael Burry in that movie. And Michael was the one who basically foresaw this whole crash. So I had sent all the songs to Michael. And he wrote me back the next day and he said, man, I really love this album. It's so much heavier than all your other albums. But the song Perception, what does that have to do with all the other song titles? I said, man, nothing at all. I said, I can't come up with a song title for it. I said, I've tried. So he said, okay. He said, well, the next day I get an email from him. He says, I've been compiling song titles for the last, 2 or 3 years. I got them in a spreadsheet here. Check them out. If there's anything you like, let me know. Just take it. It's yours. And I was like, okay. So I'm going through the thing, and there was a lot of really good song titles, but all of a sudden Tuesdays for Killing popped out in my head, and I was like, oh my God, that's perfect. But I thought, I can't just name it Tuesdays for Killing. I have to see if there was a major battle in World War I that started on a Tuesday.
Right,
so I did some research. Turns out, coincidentally enough, World War I started on a Tuesday.
Wow.
So it was just like that. So I emailed him back. I'm like, dude, you're not going to believe this. But World War I started on a Tuesday, and this song is the second song on the album in the World War I era. I said, it could not be more serendipitous. This happened for a reason. So I called the song Tuesdays for Killing. And it's one of my favorite song titles on the album because it's just so aggressive sounding. And it's just like, you have a specific date to kill. Like, what? It's just like, it's crazy.
Again, I think that, you have a very consistent theme with you is authenticity. Like you were uncomfortable. You would have felt a little uncomfortable. You had to find something that had that Tuesday because you wanted it to be authentic.
And if I couldn't, I wouldn't have named it that. I would have found another song title. But the fact that World War I started
Thursdays
on Tuesday,
for Killing.
Right, Thursdays for Killing, Fridays for Killing. It's just, it's crazy. It just worked out that way. And it was so great, and I love it.
The Hammer, that song. It reminded me of a little bit of Iron Maiden, old school, in that. Yeah. All the instruments are put together really well. There's lots of dual guitar tracks. It was almost orchestral how well organized everything was. But I wanted to know how you get that guitar sound in there. Like, what guitar were you playing, and what effects were you using, and maybe like what amp were you playing through, if you remember?
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole album I recorded with the PV Wolfgang. It's all I play is PV Wolfgang, not the new Eddie Van Halen ones, not the new PV ones, but the original PV Wolfgangs. And I have 3 purple ones and 1 amber one, and it's the only guitar I play live. It's the only guitar I freaking pretty much use.
I hope they endorse you.
Well, they did, but then they stopped using PV or stopped making PV Wolfgang because Eddie went over to some other company, and so they didn't have anything I wanted anymore. I was using the Triple X for a while, but I just basically I dropped the ball on that and just let it go. And I'm not a big into endorsements. Like, I mean, if a company has something good, then and they say, hey, do you want to? I'm like, yeah, sure, great. Then I'll use it. But I'm not going to go actively seeking for endorsements because I've got all the gear I need. Yeah. I've got tons of amps. I've got tons of guitars. I've got effects. I don't need anything, right? Sure. I've got cases and cases of strings. I'm not a endorsement whore.
I got you.
When I go to NAMM every year, I don't go looking for endorsements. I just go to hang out with friends and see people I haven't seen in a year. So on that song and on the whole album, it was the PV Wolfgang. And then James, my other guitar player, he used a Paul Reed Smith and Ibanez and Jacksons and all that stuff. And he has a really nice guitar collection. And so he used some really good guitars on that album. But for me, I'm simple. That's it. And effects wise, it's usually just a delay and a wah pedal and some reverb. And that's pretty much it.
What are you playing through?
Amp wise, I like rehearsals and live. I use a Diesel Hagen, which was given to me by Michael Burry as a gift, and I have Stone Age 4x12 cabinets, and I have a Friedman head, a Voodoo head, a Mesa Boogie, a triple rectifier, a PV Triple X, a Wizard head that was actually built or designed or built by Malcolm Young's guitar tech. So it was all to Malcolm Young's specs. So it's really it's about as close as you can get to an AC/DC sounding amp.
Wow, you have no shortage of amp heads, it seems.
Oh no, I definitely don't. And I use the Axe FX. I have the Ultra 2. I got to get the new one, but I have the Ultra 2, and that's it. We just it's simple for the most part. I try and keep it aside. I don't have racks full of gear and all that stuff. And again, this is the Angus Young influence, right?
Yeah.
It's simple.
In the beginning, in that song, The Hammer, there's like dual guitar tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And I was curious if the guitars on both tracks are playing identical melodies in the same position or the next?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm playing in the it would be in 11th, and then my guitar player James, I forget where he's playing at. So we're playing in 2 different positions.
Okay.
And
but they're not identical.
No.
Okay.
There are 2 different positions on the fretboard, 2 different arpeggios, and that melody, that whole intro was written on my couch while watching Three's Company. So
Three's Company.
And that's how I write. It's crazy. I have a studio that has like 16 foot tall ceilings, big warehouse, a huge loft, a control room, dead quiet control room, and a front room, and that's where we rehearse at. I tried to record there. I tried to write there. I cannot write there. It's too quiet. There's not enough distractions. So what I did is I brought my recording stuff home, the computer, interface, Axe FX, and I record on the kitchen table while I'm watching Sanford and Son or Three's Company or Magnum PI or some show about UFOs or Bigfoot. And that's how I write. And I got distractions going on. My dog's running around the house, and it's just, it's a distraction, and that's how I write. I write with distractions. I can't write quiet. I cannot have a quiet.
Creativity, everybody has their own process. Like even when I write sales letters, you got to be in a comfort, whatever that comfort defines for you. You can't, I think it's like heresy to try to mess with whatever you're.
That's right.
Yeah. To be honest with you, it's like, I would never try to do that. Whatever your wacky thing is, and not that that's wacky, but whatever your thing might be, it's like great. If that works for you, great. Don't even question
Well,
it.
I mean, people have told me it's wacky, and I quite agree with them, because most people I know, when they write, they have to do it in a quiet environment, and they have to be solely focused on what they're doing. And for me, it's just the opposite. I need people, either talking to me or something, because it kind of this separates me from the music, and allows me to just think with a different set of ears.
Yeah, again, it's different writing. I'm writing sales letters, but it's a creative process. I have to have quiet, man. I need to. Yeah, because
now. Well, go ahead.
No, nothing. No, that was it.
No, I was just saying. Now, so I'm writing the book right now, and for that, I want quiet. When I'm writing words, I want quiet.
Yeah, I couldn't see how you would write words. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have the TV on, but usually I'll either put in headphones, like the noise reduction headphones, and I'll put those on, or I'll put the TV on mute, and I'll just sit and I'll write, and that works for me. But for musically, I need distractions.
Yeah, because when you're writing words, you have to have a sense of awareness of
that's right
how those words are falling onto the recipient's ears.
Yes.
And how they're processing this. And I couldn't do that with distract. I need to I know if I say this, they're going to feel this. If I do this, this is the reaction I'm looking, so it has to.
Yes.
Yeah. You can't, I would find it impossible to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
In the end, in all your songs, but I found on that one in particular, there was a lot of synchronization and sort of interdependency between the guitar and the drums. And it was almost like they were both racing each other for dear life. And I was curious what challenge, if any, that presents you with.
None really. I mean, that's all my drummer there, Will. I mean, he's, a fantastic drummer and a great guitar player too. And I basically, when I write the songs, I don't give anybody direction. I don't say, okay, well, I want this here, or I want that there. I may, have the drums laid out how I hear them in my head, but that doesn't mean that that's how they have to be, So when I recorded with Mike Mangini, I remember he came, we were in the studio, and he said, okay, what do you want me to play? And I said, what do you mean? I said, you're the drummer, you play. I'm not going to tell you what to play. And he goes, really? And he was surprised by that. And I was like, yeah, man, that's your job. I'm not a drummer. So it goes the same for this. Will's a great drummer. I'm not going to play anything better than him. I'm not going to write anything better than what he's going to play. So, it's up to him to do that. That's his identity on the song. It wouldn't be right for me to take his identity and say, oh, well, no. Your identity is going to be me. As a guitar player, you're going to play what I tell you. That would be so arrogant and egotistical and stupid.
Yeah.
I totally and I'm not into that.
I totally get that. Well, it goes back to, you're hiring a professional to do a job. Let the professional do the job.
Absolutely. And, the chorus melody, the first chorus melody on the song, The End, I love that melody because I've had that melody for years and years, and I never, ever could find a place that I liked where it sat. And I had written a rhythm for that chorus, and that melody was just, it fit so perfectly. And I was like, finally, after all these years, it's got a place to call home, and I really just liked the way it came out. But I didn't repeat it again on the second chorus because I wanted that to be a little bit different. Yeah,
I like that song. It's really cool. Let me ask you this. There's a lot of players listening to this, and I had a playing question for you. Look, you've obviously spent a ton of time practicing and working on your game.
Oh, I haven't.
Yeah,
I haven't. Actually,
no,
I haven't. I don't. Honestly, I don't. I like to say that I wish I had the golden answer to say, yeah, I've spent 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day practicing, but I don't. I don't play guitar at home really. I have a guitar sitting next to the couch. Every once in a while I'll pick it up and I'll play some stuff. If I'm writing, then I'll sit down but I don't sit and practice scales and practice speed and practice arpeggios and all that stuff that most guitar players feel they have to constantly practice. And whether it's good or bad, I don't know. But for me, it's just I like when I pick up the guitar for me, it's new. Every time even after all these years of playing, every time I pick up the guitar, it still feels like a new instrument to me. And I'm not bored with it. And I still feel every time I play it that there's new things to discover on it. And Eric Clapton had a great quote. He said, if you feel like somebody said to him, well, how long did it take you to play guitar or to learn guitar? And he says, I haven't learned guitar. He says, if you feel you've learned to play the guitar, then you haven't learned anything at all, because it's an ongoing instrument. You're always going, it's a learning process, and you'll always be learning. You know, it's like baking or anything else. There's always something new to learn, a new ingredient to throw in. And, you know, if you close your mind off to that, then you'll never grow as a musician. So I feel like, you know, I'm at the infant stages of learning guitar. And I like that feeling because I still have a goal ahead of me. You know, if I felt like I was Steve Vai or Yngwie Malmsteen, you know, what more is there for me to learn? Right. You know? So for me, it's an ongoing process.
But Bill, you had to practice your speed a little bit. I mean,
no. So what I would do is I'd pick up the guitar. And I never sat with the metronome and just playing, you know, I got to play, you know, to the metronome at, you know, 230 beats a minute. You know, I would never do that. For me, I'll pick up the guitar. And so for the first, let me think here, for the first probably, I want to say maybe 15 to 20 years of my playing, I didn't own an amplifier. So I've been told that my touch is really soft. And I think that's why, is because I didn't have an amp to cover up mistakes. You know, when I was
So you just played in your house with...
Yeah.
So how long did you play guitar for before you actually got on stage?
Oh, man. The first time I got on stage was in Santa Rosa at a place called Magnolias. And I was already playing for 12 years by that time. So
you were just like practicing at home or just noodling around at home?
Yeah. Noodling is a good way to describe it, because I never, so to this day, I still can't play an AC/DC song all the way through. Because
you've never had to.
Well, yeah, and I've never learned an Angus solo, and there's one reason why, because I'm never going to do it better than Angus, and I'm not going to do him this justice. So I don't need to learn his solo. I can pick out what I want out of his solo, and I'm happy with that, and I'll use that and make it into something of my own. But I'm not interested in copying a song note for note. I'm not a fan of cover bands because they make their living off of other people, and that's a whole other story. And they don't give credit where credit is due, a lot of them. But I want to be as original as possible. And whether or not I accomplish that or not, I don't know. But for me, I want to be original. And when I'm writing an album or I'm working on an album, I don't listen to other music besides like Sinatra or Elvis or Dean Martin or Waylon Jennings. That's what I listen to. So I don't want to be influenced by all this other stuff. I don't want to hear that, you know?
But you do realize you've been nominated. Your record is top 50, one of the top 50 albums of the last 50 years for guitar. And I'm not saying you're lying at all, but I'm saying it's like, and you're saying you never practiced. That's like really hard to digest for guys like me that fucking practice.
Well, I mean, my practice involves going to rehearsal with the rest of the guys in the band, and we run the set and we jam on a few riffs or something like that, or my, like my drummer will start a riff or a beat, and then one of us will play a rhythm behind it. Usually it's me, and then my other guitar player James will solo over the top of it and play some melodies. And he's a fantastic guitar player, and I love playing with the guy, and he inspires me to play. He inspires me to want to be a better guitar player, and so does my bass player Mike, and everybody in the band does. But I don't consciously sit and practice because I get bored with it. For one, I can't sit and run scales for an hour and a half or 2 hours. I can't, I just can't do it. And
I get that.
So maybe theoretically or theory wise, maybe some of my stuff is not perfect, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't need it to be.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that if I played like you.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, right, it's you who has to live with that album.
Yeah.
It's not anybody else. They just have to buy it and consume it. But it's your name on it. You're the one who has to live with it. And if you're happy, and it doesn't matter, what style of music you play, if you're happy with that style of music that you play and what you put on the album, that's all that matters. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
It's your music.
Wow. I don't even know if I have any more questions to ask. I'm like, I can't. I'm like, holy shit. Wow. That's just like, so, wow. Wow, man. We need to send a team of robots into your brain, man, and see what the hell's going on in there, and then put it in a supplement, and I will market it really effectively.
Well, again, it comes down to I don't want to get bored with the instrument. I love the guitar, I love the expressiveness of it, and it's the most expressive instrument that's ever been created, if you ask me. The things you could do with the guitar you can't do with any other instrument.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't want to get bored with that. That's why there are so many different styles of music, and they all have a guitar in them. Not every style of music has a bazooka or what do you call it?
Bazooki.
Bazooki, or a freaking sitar, or a piano, or a clarinet, or a tuba.
Sure.
Only every style of music has a guitar because it's the most diverse instrument there is, and I don't want to get bored with that by thinking to myself, "Oh yeah, I've learned everything I can learn."
It's interesting because I've been fascinated by that because I've met so many guitar players that play in these genres where I wouldn't think guitar was prominent, but it really is. I mean, from church music to rap to pop.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, wow. And
everywhere, country, jazz. Yeah. I mean, you name it. I mean, classical. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, Hawaiian music. It's crazy. It's out there. It's everywhere.
So, man, let's talk about some of your side hustles. Strap Tight. How did that Tight Strap Locks? How did that get started?
So I was at rehearsal one day, and I had my guitar, and the guitar fell off, and it was my number one PV Wolfgang that I've used for years, and I was like, I had strap locks on there, but they were the leading brand, quote unquote, strap locks. And I picked up my guitar, and the fretboard was separated from the neck, and I was like,
wow.
Oh my God. Yeah, I had tears. I had literal tears because I've used that guitar on every album and every show I played live once I started this band. So I was devastated by it. So I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I went home and I started thinking to myself, there's got to be a better way to design a strap lock, because all this shit with nuts and screwdrivers and pliers and taking your post out and putting in a new one to accommodate this strap lock is ridiculous. Because every time you take that screw out of your guitar for the strap post, you're compromising the integrity of that hole. It's going to get bigger and bigger every time. And I thought, this is ridiculous. There's got to be a better way. So I remember when I was a kid, I couldn't afford to buy strap locks. So I had used bread ties. I just popped a bread tie on there, and it worked. It was temporary, but it worked. I wasn't going to do any Yngwie spins, but it would hold my guitar. So I thought, shit, what if we redesigned this better? And it was better material, and it was bigger, and it was really hold it. So I called my friend Rob, who owns a company called Hot Picks, and they make guitar picks.
Yeah, I know.
And I said, dude, yeah, okay. So I've known him for 20-something years, and I said, dude, go get a bread tie. And he goes, what? And he goes, dude, I've got 200-300 of them sitting on my countertop in the kitchen. He goes, I've been collecting them, and I don't know why. He goes, I've been saving them for the last 2-3 years. I've been saving bread ties. He goes, my daughter thinks I'm nuts. I go, well, go get one. And he goes, okay. So he goes, gets a bread tie, and I go, okay, now grab a guitar and a strap. And he goes, you're fucking kidding me. He goes, I know exactly where you're going with this. And I said, do it. So he puts it on there, and he goes, we can make this better. And I said, yes, we can make this way better. So the next night he came over, we sketched out an idea, and my brother is a manager of a machine shop. And so he made me a prototype, and we popped it on there, and it works. And we took it and we spun it around our head, the guitar, and it didn't come off. And I got a video on our Instagram, strap locks, I believe is the Instagram. And there's a video on there, and it was the first time we did it. Fail or not, we were going to film this, and it worked. So I texted Joe Satriani, and I said, Joe, I know you don't use strap locks. And I said, I think I know why. I said, but I have an idea for a strap lock, and I'm wondering if I can show them to you. And he said, sure. He says, when do you want? I said, whenever you want. He says, can you come by tomorrow? And I said, yeah. So I went over to his house the next day, me and my friend Frank from Apple. Again, Frank is in this whole thing, whether he knows it or not. He is in this. You know?
Frank is the pipeline to Lonero. He's the spot. The spider web that comes out. He's at the center.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah, Frank's the center of the spider web.
He is. So him and I went over there, and when I got to Joe's house, he had 3 guitars laid out on his table. And he says, if you can pop a strap lock on these, he says, I'm sold, because none of them fit. So I took this little thing out of my pocket. I went, pop on the first one, pop on the second, pop on the second, third. And he looks at me and he slaps his forehead and he goes, that is the dumbest, most brilliant idea I've ever seen. Why didn't I think of that? And I said, I don't know, but it works. And he goes, I could see that. He goes, do you need an endorser? And I was like, are you offering?
Twist my arm.
Yeah. He goes, just when you've got him ready, let me know. So Joe has been phenomenal. He tells people about it. That's how we got Glenn Hughes. Joe and Glenn were working on Joe's new album.
I'm on your website right now. Your website's pretty nice, man. It's pretty.
Thank you.
I
designed it. Yeah.
It's pretty clean.
So what do you call it? So Joe, he turned Glenn Hughes onto it, and Glenn, Joe sends me a text that says, hey, Glenn Hughes, I showed him your strap tight during recording, and he loved it. He's going to be contacting you. And like 2 hours later, I got an email from Glenn.
That's awesome.
And so that was fantastic, and it's been really good. Now we have the round ones that are they're little, they don't spin. The old ones spun. So whenever I would see Joe on video, like on stage or on our Arsenio Hall show or something, it would spin, and I was like, God, I hate looking at that. So we redesigned it to make it round, and it just doesn't spin now, and it works like it's amazing.
So it works
phenomenal.
You don't need any more, like I have for this 335 and for my SG, because they're not in the normal place with those Gibsons. So I wouldn't need those separate locks.
Nope.
Wow, that is so freaking smart.
Take it and just put it on top of your strap. Just clip it in. You're done.
That's awesome.
You can literally put it on under 3 seconds.
That's
it comes off in under 3 seconds, but you cannot pull it off. So here's an interesting story.
So once you pull it off, so it's good for one use, but that use will last forever.
No. Oh, yeah. Oh, it'll last. Yeah, absolutely. You can bend these things in half. They won't break. So Rob was over at Guitar Showcase one day. This is a place where I used to work at. And he was talking to the owner, and one of the reps for Fender came by. And they're sitting there talking up in the owner's office. And on the desk are some of the strap tights just laying there. And the guy from Fender goes, what's that? And the owner goes, oh, you're going to love these. He goes, these are the best strap locks on the market. And he goes, that's a strap lock? He goes, come on. And he goes, no, I'm serious. So Rob takes him downstairs, and they grab a Fender, $2,000 Fender off the wall, and they put him on there. Or on the top horn bout part, it's a Telecaster.
Yep.
So they put it on there. Rob gives the strap to the guy and says, I want you to pull on it. And the guy goes, dude, this is going to come off. He goes, just pull on it. So the guy's pulling on it, and Rob goes, come on, man, pull. He goes, really give it a pull. And the guy's pulling. He goes, no, man. He goes, pull it like your life depends on it. So the guy fucking pulls as hard as he can, and the strap comes flying off. And he goes, told you, man. He goes, it's not going to hold. Rob walks over to him, shows him the guitar, got no screw in it anymore. The guy looks at the bottom of the strap. The strap tight is still clipped on.
Wow.
The screw came out of the body. Yeah.
That's really
The strap
cool.
tight didn't come off. The screw
That's
for their
awesome,
own
man.
guitar came out.
That's
so the guy was
awesome.
like, holy crap, dude. He's like, I can't believe that held on there like that.
That's great. And so you have these, I see, also on Amazon.
Yeah, they're
Awesome.
the guy on Amazon is not he's a distributor, so he's selling for us. But we sell him directly through our website, straptightstraplocks.com, and that's the best way to get him, is straight through us.
Awesome. And I see you got Andy Timmons.
And we sell him in Andy Timmons, Bjorn England, Adrian Gallish.
Awesome.
We got Mark Clater on there. I don't endorse them though. Go figure. They won't endorse me. So
wait a minute. What do you mean you don't endorse? What?
I don't put myself on there as an endorser.
Oh yeah. Why is that?
Yeah.
It's your company. Because you don't want to. So you want to keep it arm's length.
Yeah. That. I got them if I need them. They're on all my guitars, so I don't need to. I do stuff like this. That's how I promote them.
Yeah, I get you. Very cool. Andy's coming on this show, I think, in about a week about 3 or 4
Amazing
weeks.
guitar player.
Yeah.
Amazing guitar player.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most tastiest guitar players ever. I've always loved that guy's playing. Always. Even when he was in Danger. Just his solo stuff, just phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to catching up with him, man.
Yeah. And tell him I said hi when you talk to him.
Everybody knows him. Everybody that I speak to says, "Oh, Andy's coming on. Tell him I said hi." Like, do you know Lance Lopez by any chance?
No, I don't.
Lance is a blues guy, a monster freaking blues player out of Texas, and he said the same. He goes, "Oh man, Andy, tell him I said hi." So he knows everybody. Andy Timmons.
Yeah, because Andy's from Texas. Yeah.
Right. And so I guess they know Lance from there.
That's cool.
And it's funny talking to Lance. It sounds like talking to. He's got a real deep voice and the same exact accent Stevie Ray Vaughan has. It was really funny.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's very. Much of it is accent driven. It was just very same. Meter and of speech and drawl.
Yeah. I love me some Stevie Ray, man.
Oh yeah. Talk about Blink. Another one of your side hustles.
Blink. Yeah. So that actually. So that's been in the making for about 17 months now. So what happened is I have my rehearsal recording studio, and right behind me is another warehouse unit. And that was the owner of the building. He was occupying that building. So about 17 months ago, he came to me and said, "Hey," he says, "I'm going to be vacating this. I'm going to be retiring my microfilm business. Do you want to take this over?" I thought, well, yeah, that'd be great. Because me and my friend Paul Ferratis, we've always talked about having a photo studio. And we were going to have a photo studio in my rehearsal studio, but I outgrew it with all the gear. So it's like, well, we couldn't do it there. So like, if we're going to do this, let's do it properly. So it came up. I took a lease of it. And basically we said, okay, well, we're going to need a cyc wall, which is the infinity wall, which is the big white wall that you see people, whenever you see them in front of a white background, usually it's something like either a big white seamless or an infinity wall, which is what we have. So it's 24 feet long on one end, 20 feet long on the other, and 14 and a half feet high. Okay. Big, massive thing to build. I mean, this thing took a while to build. And my friend Paul Dollar, who's a construction genius, he laid it all out, and we built it with him. And so we got that in there, and then we built the dressing room and the loft, and tomorrow we're finishing the bathroom, and the studio will be open for business. And it's been a long process, but man, it's been a lot of fun, I'll tell you. So it's a photography studio that's open for rent for any photographer, agency, model that wants to come in there and shoot. If you're a corporate company, you want to come in there and shoot products. Whatever it is, we can shoot cars in there, motorcycles, whatever. It's perfect for, just going in there and doing your thing. And, we have a great location. I mean, we couldn't ask for anything more.
That's awesome.
And it's one of those things again, where, everything happens for a reason. Had it happened, 7 years ago when we originally wanted, it probably wouldn't, have worked out so well. But now it's going to work out really well because of, people involved. I'm the sole owner of it, but I've got, like Paul Ferratis is the general manager, creative director of it. And it's just, and I other people that, another friend of mine that wanted to invest in it. And I don't know if he wants me to mention his name, so I won't, but yeah, so he invested in it, and it's been really, really good, That's and awesome. I never turned down an opportunity ever, for nothing. I take every opportunity that comes my way. And in fact, the same guy who invested in it came to me when he saw that I'm writing a book, and he says, "Hey, do you want to write a screenplay?" And I said, "Man, I've never written a screenplay before, but yeah, why not? Let's do it. Let's do this." So I'm working on a screenplay about Black Bart, the gentleman bandit.
That's
yeah,
it's cool, man.
It's again, there's always time to do something, right? I mean, it's if you say there isn't, they're just lying. You're just making excuses for yourself.
Let me ask you some questions about you. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you originally from?
San Jose, California. Yeah, born and raised here.
Where is that? Like,
so
I don't know California at all.
It's the heart of Silicon Valley.
Okay.
So I've got the new Apple headquarters is 2 miles up the road from me. Their new giant round building, their $5 billion building is 5 minutes up the road from me. I've got Google down the street, Yahoo, you name it. I'm in the heart of it.
So you pretty much live in the same area like where you grew up as a kid.
Now I live on the west side. I grew up on the east side when I was a kid.
Okay.
And then I did move to Bakersfield for a little while when I was like 7, 8, and then I came back. I lived in Cupertino, which is right next to San Jose, and then I moved to Santa Rosa, and then Sonoma, So I was all over the place, California, in terms of Northern California. But San Jose has always been my base. That's always where I've lived and always kind of gravitated towards.
What was your childhood like?
Great. I mean, it's just, it was filled with friends. And, my dad died when I was, 3. It was actually 2 weeks before my 4th birthday.
Wow. Sorry about that, man.
Well, thank you. But, it happens, right? I mean, it's the fact of life. But, what happened was the doctor told my dad, look, if you want to live, don't go, because he wanted to go to Reno. My dad had a bad heart. And he said, if you want to live, you don't go to Reno because of the altitude. Well, my dad didn't listen. He was a stubborn Italian. He was a bounty hunter. He was going to listen to anybody. So he piled us all up.
Bounty hunter? That must have been a badass.
I think he was. He was a short, stocky Italian dude. I don't think he took shit from anybody. One time he threw an ashtray at my brother. My brother ducked, and it hit my brother's friend in the head. And my dad said to him, "That's what you get for hanging out with him." So.
My God.
Yeah.
Wow.
My dad was. Yeah, he was a hard ass, but
wow.
But he was a good dad, to us. And but yeah, so he took us to Reno, and we went to. And remember, I'm 2 weeks before my 4th birthday. I remember this like it was yesterday. We walked out of the motel. I had my Fisher Price camping belt on with my flashlight and my canteen, and I was ready for I was going to go and explore, right? And we're walking down the street, and my dad clutches his chest, and he leans against a tree. And my mom says, "Get up. People are going to think you're drunk." She doesn't know what he's doing. She thinks he's messing around. And he stands up, and he falls face first on a mortuary lawn. And basically, my brother Farron, he runs, and, he calls 911 at the time, I guess the operator. And they came, and we piled up in the police car and went to the hospital. And the doctors told my mom, look, if he stays alive on tubes and all that on a machine, he's going to be a vegetable. So she had to make the choice to pull the plug. So now she's a single mom with 5 kids.
Holy shit, there was 5 of you.
5, yes. Me, I'm the youngest, my older brother Peter, then my sister, then my brother Frank, and then my brother Farron. Yeah, so she raised us all, and I think she did a great job. And they, and I had
props to your mom. That's really
for sure,
a lot of work. I mean, I think it's funny, man. I just told my wife last week. Our kids are older now, and but I said to her, I said, I never realized this. I said, but being a mom, I think that's the most difficult job in the world. It really is, because like if you're a good mom, like
yes.
Like my wife's always got everything anticipated. Everybody's needs are met. It's like I just find that so amazing that it's like, and so I can't imagine, and I'm an active, involved dad, and I'm an active, involved. I'm not the guy like I do nothing but work. First of all, she works too, and I'm not that guy. I've always pitched in, and I'm not one of these. I'm not a chauvinistic guy or anything like that. And that being said, it's still, I think, a ton of work and the toughest job. But I give credit to your mom to do that solo with 5 kids.
Without a doubt.
Wow.
And for me, growing up, though, I had a father figure in my life. Even after my dad died, my godfather, Bill, he basically raised me as his own son. I was his, quote unquote, only son.
Right.
And, he had picked me up from school, and I moved to Bakersfield with him for a while. And he was, for all intents and purposes, my dad.
Sure.
And and he just, he died a few years ago. And that was, absolutely heartbreaking, because he was really the only dad that I knew, that I really, really knew. That was a tough one,
Yeah, well, you guys probably were really good for each other. You probably, I'm sure you had the same value to him that he had for you, which is pretty
absolutely.
cool. Yeah, that's good.
Absolutely.
Man. Nice story. Wow, that's intense, man. So you had 5 brothers and sisters. Any of them in music, or just you?
No, not a single one plays an instrument. Yeah,
just you.
I'm the only one. Yeah,
and according to you, you don't even play very much.
Yeah, exactly, man, absolutely. So I'm bored of playing.
Just makes 4 albums, and whatever.
Well, in his it's all relative,
when he's
I
not
guess.
Writing and saving whatever else projects he got on. What are some of the bigger obstacles that you did have to deal with throughout this journey, either personal, music related, or business related? And I would imagine losing your dad was probably one of them. That in some way.
I mean, he was always supportive. You know, my whole family has always been 100% supportive of my music. I mean, always. I've never, ever had anyone in my family say, "Oh, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be a musician. You know, you're never going to make money." Not once. Right. Nobody in my family, my mother, my father, my brothers, my sister, never. They've always been the complete opposite. And that's, you know, that's huge when you're growing up, right? You know, I would. Nobody ever said, "Oh, take all those pictures of those rock stars, those ugly rock stars off your walls." No, my bedroom was filled floor to ceiling, and the ceiling itself was covered in posters. There wasn't a spot on the wall that did not have a photo on it of a band.
Sure.
And that was my inspiration growing up, right? And I would listen to my music loud, and I would be in the truck with my dad, and I'd listen to Master of Puppets, or I would listen to, you know, Wasp or something like that. And he never said, "Turn it down." You know, he was like, never, that's crap, turn that down. Never said that, you know? And so for me, it was just like, you know, they fostered that creativity to create, to listen to music and explore different styles of music and all that stuff. And so, yeah, for, you know, the obstacle wise, I mean, the only obstacle really was people saying, "Oh, instrumental, why you play instrumental? You need a vocalist." And it's just like, no, I don't, you know, it's just like, why do I want to sound like everybody else? You know, when we play a show, we're the band that people remember as the one without a vocalist, you know. It's, if we had a vocalist, "Oh, what was that band?" "Oh, I don't know. Just another band with a vocalist," you know?
So that was a bit of a, that kept coming up about, you know, you shouldn't be doing this instrumental stuff.
Yeah, it would come up, absolutely. Yeah. And you know, but then we would have the opposite. We'd have people come to the show, and after the show, they'd say, "Man, I never listen to instrumental music, but I really like you guys because you're not all about the shredding." What
made you press on though? So you hear a lot of people telling you this. What made you say, "You know what, I'm going to stick to my guns. I know that I'm onto something here"?
Because I'm an asshole and I want to prove them wrong.
Righteous indignation has done a lot for me. I hear you.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Because I'm not going to let somebody else's opinion sway my future. You know, it's my life. It's not their life. They're not the one up there writing the music. They're not the one on stage playing the music. It's not their name. It's mine. So for me to say, "Oh God, you're right. You know, I don't know who the hell you are, but you're right. I'm not going to be instrumental anymore."
I don't know who you are. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I would be the stupidest person in the world to take that advice, you know? And yeah, I mean, it's just, it's really hard for somebody to tell me what I should and shouldn't do. And not because, you know, I think all my ideas are great, but because I think that they're my ideas. And the reason I came up with those ideas because I thought they were good. So for me to take somebody else's opinion and make it gospel, then that's when you have a problem. That's when you start to lose your integrity as a person and as a musician. You know?
Start believing your own bullshit.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people out there that they want to play a certain style of music. They want to do something in their life, but they can't because they've got family members in their ears saying, "Well, you know what? You got to do that. You got to spend 4 years in college. You've got to work 20 years at this company, you know, so you can get your pension." You know, but you don't know if you're going to be alive in 20 years. You know, there's no guarantee for anything, you know.
Man, that is true.
You know, so when I die, I want to know that I died doing exactly what I want to do, not what somebody else wanted me to do, you know. And that is the biggest, you know, kind of a nudge for me. The biggest inspiration is that if I make it to 80 years old or 75 years old, I want to look back on my life and not have any regrets. And that's why I have on all my guitars, I have no regrets, no excuses on the front of the guitars.
Yeah, I see
and that's a reminder to me. Yeah. And on the studio wall, I have no regrets, no excuses in big letters across the wall. Because, you know, if you go through life with regrets, you're doing a disservice for who you became. You know, you're insulting who you've become. You've become who you are because of those things that you've done in your past. You know, and if you regret those things you've done in your past, then you're insulting who you are now as a person.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. I'm very, very much on the same page there. What's something that you've learned about yourself along this entire journey?
Not to take anybody's bullshit. That honestly is the biggest thing, because when I was a kid, I was really shy. And I was very introverted. You know, you couldn't talk to me without me turning my head away. Or if I was at a party or something like that, I was always the guy in the corner by himself. And I'd always let people kind of dictate to me what I was going to do. And it wasn't until I started this band that I actually kind of came out of that shell and realized, you know what, I'm the one that is responsible for this, and I'm not going to listen to people's bullshit about it. You know, I don't care who they are.
What was the trigger? Because that's a pretty major...
Yeah.
That's a pretty major change in you know, your behavior with yourself.
Yeah.
What was the trigger for that?
Well, I think the trigger, honestly, was putting out my first album and knowing that I can do this. You know, this is not an unattainable goal. You know, when you don't have an album out, when you've never put one out before, and you see the monumental task that it takes, people don't understand, people who haven't done it, the monumental task that is involved to put together an album, to write all the songs, get all the instrumentation together, to record it all, then to perform it live, to package it together into a CD format. Because I'm still, you know, I'm old school in that. I like the CD. I like holding a package in my hand. To do all the artwork, to handle all that. And it's like, and then you put it out there and it gets good reviews and people like it. Then that does something to you. It doesn't make you an egomaniac. It doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you confident, you know? And for me, that was a big kind of confident booster, knowing that I can accomplish something of this monumental task, you know. And each album doesn't get any easier. It's not like you do one album and the second one
the next one's
easier.
A layup. No,
it gets harder and harder and harder each time you do it, because you learn new things and you want to implement those things. And so you have to be able to understand that when you're going into it, you know. And for me, I design all the artwork. I lay it all out in Quark Express. I do all the graphics for all the albums. So for me, it's everything is involved. You know, it's not just one thing. I do everything that's involved with the album.
So all these side hustles, were you always like that, or did the album give you the confidence at the same time to do more things like these?
Yeah. I mean, I've always been interested in doing other stuff. I've just never done them, right? I mean, so once the album came out, then it was like, well, yeah, I can do that. So why can't I do this?
Strap blocks and painting and studio and photography.
And for me, if I get into something, I don't get into it with any caution. Like I don't step back and go, well, let me analyze the situation. If I do this, will it cost me this amount of money, and will it affect me this way? No, I jump into it. I literally jump in feet first, both feet into the fire. If I get burned, I get burned. It's a learning lesson. I move on. That's not for me. I do something else. If I don't get burned, then I just expand on that and I move on and I just grow with it, and then I try and take it to another level. And it's like that for every aspect, you know, and whether it's the martial arts thing, or whether it's the strap tight thing, or whether it's the studio thing or the music thing, it doesn't matter. Photography, whatever.
So the album, in a sense, was like a base hit that you really needed.
Yes.
That's
absolutely
great. That's really good.
Yeah.
I want to, you know, I think I like to point out things here on the show, because this isn't like about playing guitar. This is, I think, about, you know, a really good, it's in the guitar medium, but it's a good analogy for success in life, you know, and it's, you know, the lesson is you just took a step.
Yeah. I took two.
Yeah. and then, you know, it's like, holy shit, you know, I survived. Now I can take another one and another one. And
that's the thing.
Yeah. And that's how it happens.
Go ahead.
You know, people often think that whatever it is you're building, like, you just rolled out of bed one day and the whole fucking empire was there, and they don't really.
Yeah.
And that's why I find these backstories so interesting, because everybody's is a similar version of, you know, I pecked away and I pecked away and I did this and I did this, and then 3 months later we had this, and then 6 months later we
That's
had.
right.
And it's reps at whatever it is you're doing.
Absolutely. And you have to go into it with the mindset that you're going to succeed at it. You can't go in with the mindset that, well, I might fail at this. Well, you've already failed. You put that out there. Your mind has already been conditioned that you're going to fail at something.
Right.
And if you do that, why even start it? You have to go into it with, you know what, I'm going to succeed at this. I'm going to give it everything I have. And, if I don't succeed at it, let me look at why I didn't succeed. Did I not contact the right person? Did I not, talk the right way to this person? Did I not, whatever it is, you did something wrong that made you not succeed because you went into that mindset that you aren't going to succeed.
Man, I have this thing. I don't know if you could see it. I keep this right on my desk next to me. It says, proceed as if success is inevitable. Because
Absolutely.
I think if you lose that thought right in line with what you're saying, then you're toast before you even get to the starting line, let alone the finish line.
Yes. And so many people go through life with that mindset, right? I live in Silicon Valley. There's a million people here who hate their jobs, who hate their lives because every day they get up in the morning, they have to get up when it's cold, and they got to drive 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work, to sit and listen to a boss they can't freaking stand, to come home, drive in traffic because the traffic is crazy here now. They'll sit an hour and a half, 2 hours in traffic, go home, eat dinner, and go to sleep and start it all over again.
Wash, rinse, repeat. I know, man.
Yeah, absolutely. That's life, right? Wash, rinse, repeat. That's what they do. And it's like, no, man, you need to put that shit on tumble dry and just freaking let whatever happens happen.
Put that shit on tumble dry.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, right? I mean, you can't go into life with this defeatist attitude, because you're never ever going to get anywhere.
Yeah, you can't go into life with the defeatist attitude and expect to win.
That's right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to win. That's right. Absolutely, you won't. You will get beaten up and chewed out and spit on, every step of the way.
Man, I can literally talk to you all afternoon. I'm going to ask you just one more question, but before I do
only
that,
one more. That's it.
Man, we're going on 2 hours. I could speak to you for another 2 hours. So I want to ask you this last question, and I think this is an interesting question. Like for myself, I always try to think about this, and I think people you're definitely like obviously self-development oriented and into stretching as much as you can. And I was curious what the biggest change in your personality has been over the last, say, 10 years.
Definitely not shy. That's, I used to, like I said, I used to be really, really super shy. You couldn't get 2 words out of me. It was bad. And it was when I started the band and when we played live, that's when, because I realized that I had to do one of 2 things. I had to either become not shy and more extroverted and be able to stand on stage and talk to people, or I'd have to basically just, hide, behind the drum set all night long. And
you couldn't do what you couldn't do what you do.
That's right.
Properly. Yeah.
Absolutely. There was no way that was going to happen. So yeah, that was my only choice, and that really, really changed everything for me. They used to call me Stand Still Bill because I would just stand on stage, my first bands. Yeah. And I would
Stand Still Bill.
Yeah. I was grunge before grunge, I would just stand there and stare at the stage, my feet.
Wow. And it was because of you're just painfully shy.
Oh, painfully shy. Yeah. I mean, and, the first real band that I was in was called Subliminal and out of Santa Rosa. And we, I just stood there and it was the first time I ever played a guitar solo on stage. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was complete noob at it, and I don't know what got in my head to make me think that I could front my own band and do this. But, it's one of those things where you jump feet first into it and you just do it and you suffer the consequences or you suffer the rewards. And you make it happen.
And not only are you not shy, you're actually a really good communicator. So,
that's good to hear.
Wow. You know that. Come on, man.
No,
I think
but it's you can hear it and all that stuff. But you've been in, what you do, you've been doing for a very, very long time. So to hear that coming from you is a great compliment. So thank you.
Yeah, it's nice to have a conversation with you because there's dialogue back and forth. It's like it's not like you answer questions vaguely. You're super specific, and both when you're, and even like. It's always impressive. Like your memory is really good, because you were recalling stuff like this guy's name, and it like rolled right off, and it was, events that, in your first album, your first band, it was, this guy played with this guy, there's a, those are details that sort of get lost sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, that, and that may be, I've never done, any drug whatsoever, I mean, I've never touched a single drug in my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've never smoked. I mean, so I know a lot of that stuff affects memory, and I've just never been one. I've never even tasted coffee. So when I tell people that,
really?
They're blown away. Yeah, they're blown away.
That
like,
is
what?
wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you drink? Like beverage in the morning? Tea or?
No, water. I mean, water. Yeah, that's basically it. A ginger ale. I like ginger ale, but yeah, I don't drink. I used to drink a lot of soda. I don't drink soda like Coke or Pepsi or any of that stuff anymore.
Horrible. That is
I
don't drink any of that crap.
And I don't. I'll have a beer. Every once in a while, and like if I'm with friends or whatever, we're somewhere, I'll have a beer. But people are like, "Well, what do you do to have fun?" And I'm like, "Everything you do, except with all the bad stuff."
Yeah, you don't have to be high to have fun.
Yeah, exactly, man. And for me, I want to enjoy the music. I want to remember my life. I don't want to, be one of those like you hear that quote. I think it's Steven Tyler. He's like, "Well, if you say you remember the '60s, you weren't there," and it's like, that's not something to be proud of.
Yeah.
It's like. The world is inundated with commercials about alcohol and all this, the Prozac and all this shit. Like it's something to be proud of, and to me, it's just like, man, how did we get here? How did we get to the point to where, every football game is sponsored by an alcohol company, and it drives me crazy because it's like people miss out on so much on life,
I agree. I'll tell you an interesting story about that. I have a dog, and she's really old. She's like close to 15, and she has really bad anxiety, and she trembles, right? So, we took her to the vet, and I don't take any kind of pills. I work out all the time. I eat healthy, and my wife's the same way, and my kids are the same way.
Nice.
So the doctor said, you got to put him on an anti-anxiety, and I was really against it, but he goes, look, I understand, but you can't let her live like this. And he's right, because she literally is, trembling. So I put her on it, and in 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 months even, I tolerated it. And one day I wake up, and I'm like, my dog is gone. I mean, like, her soul, like, she left the building. I didn't know, like, it was just some dog that would lay around. It was, and so I weaned her off the stuff, and within 2 weeks, she was back to herself, maybe 3 at most. But, now she's licking and kissing and, participating in her life once again.
Wow.
She's still got the anxiety, but I don't know as to your point, I don't know how people
function
that are on that stuff.
Yeah.
It was just like, and that was like the lowest grade, they swore to me it was like tiniest grade possible. And I saw what it did to her, and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, it really is. One day I was home and I was working on some album stuff. So I was on the couch, and I was, had the TV on, and I thought, what I'm going to do? I'm going to write down every time a commercial comes on for some drug on TV. And by the time I went to bed, which was about 12 hours later, I had a list of about, I think it was around, because I was flipping through channels and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I think it was a list of around 36 different drugs. And
in an hour?
No. From the time I woke up in the morning until I went to bed, which was around 3 o'clock in the morning.
Holy crap.
It was insane. I mean, I was like, this is ridiculous. We're just completely medicating the country. And so people can, whatever they need to do, to think they need to function. And it's just, it blew me away. So I posted that on Facebook, and I just couldn't believe the amount of, comments. There were good comments, people like, yeah, man, I see these drugs on TV all the time. And half the time the side effects are worse than the actual reason you're taking the drug.
Right.
Right. It's just, it's crazy. And I don't know. I just think, we don't need all that stuff. And people just need to take responsibility for their own actions, not look to some outside source as the reason for their failure, and accept it and move on and learn from it and grow. That's part of life, right? You grow as a human being. At least you hope you will.
Or not.
Yeah, or not, or not. Absolutely, But you hope you hope that
ideally,
that you would.
Yeah,
ideally.
That's the game plan. At least.
It is, but it doesn't happen all the time because half the time people are so medicated up they don't know what the hell's going on.
I agree, man. Well, listen, I could literally talk to you hours. I'm really glad that we get to connect, man. I'm glad.
Me too.
You're in my world here, man. So
I had such a blast.
I did too, and it was really good getting to know you and getting your backstory. I want to tell people though where they could find you. So this is Bill Lonero, is his name, Lonero. This new album is The Defiant Machine, and it's a great album. It's been named one of the top 50 guitar albums of the last 50 years. So this is pretty powerful shit. You could find Defiant Machine on all the usual places: Spotify, Pandora, iTunes, Amazon. You could find Bill and his crew on Facebook.com/Lonero Music, and it's Lonero, Lonero Music. He's also at Lonero.net, which is his own website. He's on Twitter at Lonero. Again, that's Lonero. Instagram is Lonero_the_band. And on YouTube, just look up Lonero Music, and he's all there. He's got a bunch of cool stuff up there. He's got a bunch of really cool projects. You can find out about his strap lock project at straptight.com, photography studio at Blink Creative Agency, and landscape photography at photonext.net. And he does, I think he has a booth like, answers to questions. You remember the thing on Charlie Brown? One of them had a little booth.
Yeah.
Bill, Bill does that on the spare time on the weekends.
It's only 5 cents and a cup of lemonade.
Yeah, 5 cents and a cup of lemonade. Well, man, listen, I wish you a lot of luck with the album. I hope you sell thousands of, hundreds of thousands of copies. It's a really well done album, and all your other projects, man, and you're a ton of hustle, and I really respect you. And
thank you so much,
company for that, man. Any final words or parting words of wisdom or anything I missed?
No, thank you for the opportunity, and thank everybody out there, and thank all of our fans, for their support, because like I said before, without them, you don't have anything really as a band. You don't have that kind of that support system. So our fans have been fantastic. I love all of them, because they come out to the shows, they buy our stuff, and they help us. They promote, they share our stuff, and I wish more bands would treat their fans with respect and that they deserve, because the fans deserve as much respect as the musicians do for the music they do. So so big, huge thanks to all of them out there for their support.
Well, that's very cool. And come check out Lonero on tour with Killer Bee in spring of 2018. And I'm sure that's on Bill's website at Lonero.net.
Yes. Yeah, more dates will be added as the months come by. We have 3 dates right now: Idaho, Seattle, and San Leon, Texas. So there'll be more dates coming.
Dude, you guys ever get over to the East Coast?
We played in Clearwater, Florida.
That's right down the road, man. Where'd you play?
Is it?
At Ruth Eckerd?
No, we played. I hope you got another minute. There's a TV show called Ghost Hunters that used to be on TV.
Yeah, and my younger son watches that.
Okay, so I was the EVP specialist for that show for 11 years. So I did all
very cool.
Yeah. So and real quick, that was one of those situations where I was watching their show one night, and their EVP sounded like crap, and I thought, man, I could do a better job.
What's EVP?
Electronic voice phenomenon.
Okay.
So it's when you have a tape recorder or video, whatever, and you're recording the environment, you're talking, you're asking questions, and something comes back and answers you, or just a noise in the background or something. So I had taken one of their EVPs off their website, and I cleaned it up, and I sent it to the show. And Grant Wilson, the guy who was one of the hosts of the show, he emailed me back, says, dude, he says, that's so clean. He says, because I found stuff on there that they hadn't heard before. And he says, Dave, do you want to be the EVP specialist for us? And I was like, yeah, man,
wow.
Sure. So that just worked out. It's one of those, but again,
you made your luck. Yeah,
that's right.
You made your luck. You took the initiative and you sent it in, and
So they had a big convention out in Clearwater, and they invited us to come out and play, and they put us up for a few days in this nice hotel, the Biltmore, I think it was, and it was beautiful.
Biltmore's in Miami.
Okay, so this is what was it called? It was a big hotel, huge.
In Clear. Maybe the Don Cesar, or was it pink?
No, it was white. It was a very old hotel, but it was very big.
Can't think of it off the top of my head.
Man, I don't remember the name of it, but it was nice. And so we were there, and we played, and we played the headlining band was some of the guys from Blue Oyster Cult. So it was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun. We blew the power out, which was fantastic. Yeah, we kept playing though. We did not stop playing, even with the power out, and then the power came back on. And when we were done, some of the guys from Blue Oyster Cult came over and said, "Man, you guys just kept playing. That was fantastic. You never missed a beat."
That's so
and we're like,
cool.
"No." Yeah, so we couldn't hear anything. We just knew what to play. We had the drums behind us. We were good to go, But yeah, we didn't let it stop us. So we didn't say, "Oh no, we got to stop the show." We just kept on playing. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun on that trip.
Well, man, I hope you come back down this way. We'll definitely hook up.
Me too. I'd love to, man. I had such a good time there, and you guys got the best water over there in the Keys. So
you want to come in the spring. You don't want to come in the summer. It's gross.
Yeah. Oh, we played summertime. That's when we played. It was like July.
Oh,
outside.
It's brutal, man.
I got bit by fire ants on my neck. I didn't even realize I was being bit until some kid told me, "Hey, dude, you got like a bunch of fire ants on your neck."
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I had welts all over my neck for the next day.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that, man.
Yeah. So but yeah, that was one of those opportunities.
There you go, man. Everybody, I want to thank you so much for listening. I got a lot out of this, and I really learned a lot. And you're a sharp guy, so I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Oh. Thanks again to Bill Lonero. Bill, I really appreciate it, and best of luck and success with Defiant Machine. And
thank you, sir.
Everybody go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get notified of future episodes along with some cool stuff for guitar players. Now, be nice. Go play your guitar. And most important in life is have some fun. You only get one of these. Till next time, peace and love, and I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.